Everybody, welcome to episode 616 of Hacking Gourmet. I actually really don't know what number it is, and if you've watched the show, you already know that. But I have show notes. Actually, we always have show notes, but I decided this week I'm going to pay attention to the show notes and see if it makes a difference. I don't think it will. We've obviously started late, which, by the way, has nothing to do with the show notes. Has to do with Dominican time, which we'll probably get into that a little bit later. But welcome to the show. If you're watching this on Facebook, hit that share button, share the love, send somebody else to us. We have a guest today, which is going to be really awesome. Omar De Frias, the tall guy. I'm pretty sure that we're going to have to run our cameras the other way when he comes on. I don't know how we're going to fit him on a screen. This is technology things. I'm not up on that. But you can also follow us on Facebook, which you're probably watching right now, on Instagram, I don't know, it's pretty much everything at Hacking Gourmet. So without any further delay, because we're already delayed, let me bring in McGee and Carney. Welcome to the show, guys.
What is up,
How's it going, Fred?
What's up, John?
I didn't even say what I was. I'm Fred Rui. I'm the meat-orator, which is basically the guy that sits staring food. But I did prepare some food for this show just because I wanted to snack. So,
well, in the event that you forget to tell people who you are, it is always on a graphic in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. So that works out really well. But we are here today. We did make it. I've finished my snack since we're starting a little late. I'm not going to take any credit for being delayed today. This is the most organized I have ever been for the show. We were very professional this week. But in true Hacking Gourmet fashion, no matter what we do, there's always an issue. So it's not a problem, and we adapt to it. But I have finished almost all of my snack that I intended on eating throughout the show today. So there's that.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that if it was Carney's fault, or Fred's fault, or my fault, it'd be a subject of conversation immediately. We'd be jumping on each other, but apparently it has to do with somebody else that we'll get into here in a minute.
Now, if you call Omar out early, we haven't brought him on yet. He'll be on in a couple of minutes. If you call him out early, he's just going to hang up. He's just going to go away.
Well, the funniest thing is that you guys can't see this. But the way this program works, I can see all of you on your individual screens. So I've been watching Omar kind of tirelessly over the last 5 minutes set up his whole kitchen, and he's doing a great job. So when we bring him on, that kitchen is going to look like he had this ready to roll. Like I've watched him the whole time, and it's amazing. So he's going to be good. We're happy to have him, but we do have a good show.
Omar's a professional. He's a professional. Yes. Have you seen his show? I don't know if it's a show. Or, yeah, he does this road thing. It's really cool. He's been all over. I'm like, damn, I want to do that.
The cool thing about his show is one of the first uses I saw of that type of media being distributed through WhatsApp.
Yeah.
I know he's doing it through YouTube and WhatsApp and whatnot, but he's distributing it through there, which I think is kind of cool. And that's something that I've looked at, and I think it's been really successful because it's been going on for a while now, and boom, it pops into my WhatsApp like a text message, and I'm instantly interested in watching what's going on. And obviously, he's quite fascinating himself, and we're fortunate to have him on the show. But,
wait, you're getting the text too? I thought he was just sending them to me. Oh man!
You're right.
All right. So what did everybody cook this week? I know we had some flat irons going this week. What did everybody cook this week?
So I did flat iron 4 times actually this week. One, we did that instructional video, which is up on hackinggourmet.com, and I cooked 3 steaks that night for the sake of time, and then I enjoyed it so much that I went back and got another one. And we'll get into that. I'm actually cooking a flat iron steak again tonight, so we'll talk a little bit more about that. And so I cooked that. I did some vegan chicken wings with cauliflower. I've been using these cauliflower to make chicken wings. As I said, my lady friend is vegetarian, so I've been adding some vegetarian dishes. So when I make chicken wings, I did that. So I did cauliflower chicken wings. They came out awesome. I did a wine-infused lemon basil chia pesto dish, which was kind of fun. But I did eat flat iron steak 4 times this week.
Nice. I know you should be expert in flat iron. But hey, Brian, what about you? What did you cook?
Well, I watched one of the videos that Carney put up about the flat iron steak, and I was like, you know what? Let's try flat iron steak and a Philly cheesesteak sandwich. And as I told you guys, that didn't work out so well. I think you stick with ribeye versus
Yeah.
any other cut of meat for Philly. But I've been playing around with wings as well. I did this. I've been marinating. I don't know if that's the right word. Maybe wet brining the wings in buttermilk, and then I mixed the buttermilk with like Frank's Red Hot sauce, and then mix in some of the buffalo seasoning with it, and then smoking them, and then finish them off in the fryer. So that's worked out really well. That's been pretty interesting too. So I've done some pretty cool wings this week.
Nice. I did.
Yeah, that would be-
Yesterday was game time. I did some brats yesterday for the last Green Bay game. I didn't know it was going to be the last Green Bay game, but I view brats on that game usually. I posted a hash brown flipping from Sunday's brunch. That's on the page there. You can see that in slow mo. Kind of fun. I think I watched it like 10 times. It's actually hard to hold a camera and flip something. I did try to do that last week, by the way, and it didn't go as well because I was so concerned with like getting everything in frame. So then this week I'm just like hold the camera and just flip it and hope it works. Hope that the camera gets it, and it did. It's kind of cool in slow mo, so that was kind of fun. And I have a prime rib ready to go. I put it on about 1 o'clock today, so about 4 hours ago. So I'm ready to jump in there, and I'm gonna, as soon as you guys talk amongst yourselves, I'm gonna go cut myself a prime rib piece.
So we got our friend Chris Rosenthal on today. He was very upset that he wasn't the tall person on the Cooking Tall guest, so I told him soon. So we have kicked him as a guest down the road again a little bit further. But he's going to be in. He says he's going to be in full chirp mode today. So he's going to be chirping.
Is Chris tall? Is Chris tall?
Oh, Chris is very tall. Yes, he's 6'8", I think. At least.
Oh, that's 6'8", 6'7". He always seems very angry.
I'll be honest. Chris is actually a very happy guy and lives a very good life. His Facebook persona, just precludes him. He's the ultimate troll. I mean, he's literally the ultimate troll.
He gets mad if you say troll. Don't say troll.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're into that. But I'm smoking an Airbender Montaton Airbender Robusto size. I think you're smoking a La Volcata, Fred, which we'll get into that.
La Volcata, LFD, La Volcata. Yep.
With our announcement later for the Gourmet Smoke Session. Brian, what are you smoking?
I'm smoking the second one today. I've had a box of Jekyll Hill Willie Lees that I've been aging since November 2017.
Oh,
and
wow.
Open, and they are smoking very well. Very well.
Did you notice a difference on the aging on that? Because that cigar right out of the gate was just phenomenal as far as the flavors.
The flavors are still there, but it's definitely mellowed, and it's become more rounded. It's not as strong as it once was, but man, it's still delicious.
All right, let's talk about what we're cooking today. So, McGee, why don't you lead us off? Tell us what you're cooking. So, some ingredients there.
Yeah, so I've got Brussels sprouts with bacon that I'm smoking right now, and I've got this beautiful 30-day dry-aged prime cowboy cut bone-in ribeye that I've been smoking for the past hour, and then I am going to sear it for the first time using a salt block. So I'm going to sear it. I've got the salt block coming to temp here, and I'm going to sear it off on the salt block and see how that. So I only seasoned it with pepper and garlic powder, and I'm going to let the salt block add salt to it.
Nice. Perfect.
All
Carney,
right,
what about you?
I've got, let me just pull this off here, Brian's screen. And here we go. So I got today, I'm doing 2 items. So I'm going to continue the theme with the flat iron steak. I did pick up one more flat iron steak today for Meat and Bone. We're going to show it. It's a really nice cut. It's actually 16 to 18 ounces. And I'm actually using choice with this. The reason I'm using choice is this, as you can see here on below, there's a little picture of a cow right down there. You can see this is where the flat iron steak comes from. It's essentially from the shoulder. It's a very heavily worked muscle in the cow. But it does have good fat content to it. And if cooked appropriately, you can actually break that down. It's one of the more underrated cuts if you cook it correctly. And then once we get into the show a little bit, before I put it on for its tempered cook, we're going to do a true tempered cook here with actually no oven time today. It's just going to be right on the cast iron. I'll show how the grain works on that and how to cut it. But you really, it's very important that you cut it appropriately. But yeah, we'll be doing flat iron steak today. That's going to be a choice flat iron. We're going to be using Uncle Steve's shake on that. We've got the competition cow powder. Boom. Competition cow powder
Nice.
right here. And it says right on the side here, if you can see it, get your moo on. So I felt like this was the most important thing to do. And the best option was to use the thing that said get your moo on. So we're going to be doing that. So just Uncle Steve's Shake. We're going to use an exceptional olive oil. I have this really nice olive oil. This is also available for meat and bone as well. A beautiful olive oil. It's called Venta del Baron. Fantastic. It's super, super rich. So I bought that for special occasions. So we'll do that tonight because we've got Omar on the show. And then we're going to be doing a vegetarian tartare. We're going to do that with beets, avocado, shallots, a Japanese barbecue sauce that I've been using lately. It's called Bachan's. It's delicious. So that's going to give it a little bit of a meaty flavor. So we're going to take beets and turn it into beef. Yep, I'm doing something sacrilegious. We're going to add shallots to it as well, mustard powder, salt, pepper, garlic, and a little bit of lemon juice. And we got a nice preparation set up with that. And we're going to finish that dish off with a little bit of pine nuts on top. So thank you, UncleSteveShake.com. UncleSteveShake.com. You can go there and check out his spices. I've actually really, really enjoyed them. And there's a few of them there I'm looking to use for some barbecue potato chips once I get up over the summer. And I've really enjoyed, as a guy that doesn't personally put a ton of spices on beef, using some of the alternative cuts that I have and some of the unique dishes I've had. These Uncle Steve's shakes have been perfect for the steaks I've had. So really enjoyed that. So that's what's going on today with those items for me. So flat iron steak, vegetarian tartare.
Just to let you know, I didn't mention it, but the Brussels sprouts, I did put Steve Shake's shake all over. Was it shake on everything? Seasoning that's on the Brussels sprouts with the bacon.
Yeah, I've been really happy with his mix. It's been really good. Also, I think his price point for the volume amount that he gives you is really good. Like some of these guys put out stuff, and other than Meat Church, which I think also is really good value because they have bigger containers. You're not buying these tiny little things that you're using. I mean, you're getting a lot of use out of them, and I've used it on a lot of things so far. I've been really impressed by it. It's a good mix.
Why is your wife making fun of me, Fred? Why has she been coached?
Who's making fun of me?
I don't know if you saw it.
Are you making fun of me?
She said isn't vegan in McGee's wheelhouse.
Oh, really? You're picking on Brian?
Wow.
It's a tough crowd. We got a tough crowd here today. He goes,
wow.
Cole wants everyone to know that Chris was on time. So Chris was on time, just saying. And then Chris also said, we'll review this again. Things are getting tough in Miami. I'm using choice.
That's right. That's right.
And he says he's coming in hot with the chirps. So I think it's time to turn the attention away from us so we can take off a little bit of heat here. And it looks like Omar is just about getting ready to roll. So let's get him going.
Let's bring him in. So without any further delay, let's bring in the big man himself, Omar De Frias. Welcome to the show.
And he's going to have to unmute himself.
You have to unmute yourself. As soon as he figures out how to unmute himself.
You can tell the kitchen's set up real nicely.
Oh, yeah, it looks good.
We're still muted. It's okay. We're still muted. Well, you know what? This is a good time because he can figure that out for a second. This is a good time to jump on the grill cam. There's an unmute button on there. There's a spot at the bottom. I'll show you. There's a spot that has where you pick your microphone and
a little microphone
camera, and there's a little microphone button there. So if you just click that on the screen. But this is what I'm talking about here with the flat iron steak. You can see it's got a pretty good grain of fat running around the back here. It's going to be a little bit tough, but we're going to break that down with a good tempered cook. And you can also tell that this cut has been chopped up nicely and it has been trimmed. Not a ton of marbling on it. You can tell that it's a worked muscle, but you can still see some marbling, even though it's a choice cut.
Hello.
And Omar's on.
Hey, there we go. Omar's here.
The grain, and then we're going to cut against it. So this is a really nice cut, flat iron, inexpensive, over a pound, so really nice. But Omar De Frias, welcome to Hacking Gourmet.
So
Omar,
I would
how are you
say
doing?
I heard all of you. I heard all the banter. Okay. No, it is not true. I was not late. This is not Dominican time, people. Okay. This is just how we roll. You know, it's like we like to come
There is no late.
It's like more of a.
There's no late. There's no late. Yeah, we're good. We're
We
good.
like to come in with a little bit of a punch, right? But I think I'm
Now,
in the camera,
let
which
me
is
get this out
good.
of the way. For what are you smoking?
Smoking the
I see the
Fratello
smell.
Bianco. You probably remember this. This is what my second release on my line, but I launched a small little Coronita that I basically used as a 45-minute to an hour smoke. And every single time I would go to a retailer, I knew how much time I had with that person. So I launched this. This is literally a 45 to minute to an hour smoke. So I knew that I was ready to
So
get out once it was
so
done.
show the band again, Omar, because I love the band. And this is a funny story I'm going to tell about Omar right here. So Omar and I were in the Dominican Republic golfing right before he starts the brand. I know you remember this. So he's trying to describe the band to me, and I am not getting it at all. He's like, no, it wraps this way and it shows Fratello and it's got this, and I'm like, I don't get it. And he's looking at me like I'm an idiot. So he takes the scorecard and he draws it on the scorecard, and I'm still like, dude, I don't get it, man, but good luck. I just couldn't get it. And then it came together. It came together. It's a beautiful band, and it all worked. It all worked. But I
It
mean, when he was
wraps around
drawing
the
that,
cigar.
yeah, I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure it out. But it is super cool. It's there's not a lot of innovative bands that hit our industry, and obviously the cigars are good, and we'll talk about those later. But the band, I just remember that. I remember being on that golf course and not having a clue. And I also remember that if Omar drove the ball straight, I was nowhere near him. I mean, just the guy's a beast. The guy's a
It's
beast.
the anchor. It's the line.
Oh,
You know, I just got to go straight. That's all.
one of the only guys to almost drive 18 on that course too. I mean, that was
Yes.
little.
Yes.
That was impressive.
I
So what are you
remember I
cooking? What are
remember
you
that
cooking?
visit very well, man, because it was I kept on telling you, man, it's like, dude, it's angled. Like you go in and you look at the band and you
Yeah,
look at it like this,
couldn't
but
figure it out.
they got to tie it on the side. But so true
I should have
story.
saved the
All right,
scorecard.
everyone. Yeah.
So
We got
what
a
are you
picture
cooking tonight,
going.
Omar? What are you cooking?
So got something pretty special. So guys, I bought all my steaks and everything because obviously it's all about steaks with this group, right? But I did something a little bit different. I bought langostinos. Everybody familiar with langostinos?
Yeah, like little baby lobsters.
Exactly. So I went into Costco and I got these langostinos, which I am a huge fan of. I love langostinos. They're very popular in the Dominican Republic, but unfortunately, and maybe you guys can help me out why I cannot find them here in the U.S. Do they
Well,
have to wait until they're fully grown so that we can eat them? Like, what is the deal?
well, I can tell you, I'm from the state of Maine, okay, and we also have my friend Cole on here as well. But there's a very heavy lobbyist group in the United States of America. It's a lobster association. All right. So langoustine is essentially a similar critter to lobsters. They're obviously shaped, they're tinier, smaller, don't have the same claws and whatnot. But
Right.
langoustine used to be pretty popular, and they were sold as lobster, imitation lobster. So back in the day, and in the last probably 15, 20 years, very heavily, this lobbyist group has lobbied quite heavily to promote lobsters, which are domestically here, or the cold water lobsters and whatnot. And you have rock lobsters and things like that. But they've lobbied heavily against that, where if you use langoustine, it has to be called langoustine. And the term langoustine is not as popular to the general crowd as lobster. So there's a huge
Interesting.
lobbyist group from it. And it's funny. The reason I know that is because my father was one time brought in as an expert witness per se on a federal hearing in the state of Maine on how to represent lobsters, and the conversation was about how langoustine was being used in place of lobster and called lobster. So it's challenging to find for that reason, because the lobster lobby and the perception of lobster is better than langoustine, and langoustine is fantastic.
I love langoustines, and Dominican Republic is very popular, right? But again, we're a country that anything you can find a good cat every now and then, if you actually look very well. But there's so many things, right? And so when we go out to the restaurants, we would get either langostinos, it was more of like a sitting down experience for everybody on the table, because you get a small part, you take off the head, and then you just take it apart and just eat it, rather than a full lobster. It's just a full blown meal, right? So we use langostinos quite a bit the same way that I guess you could use, you know, in New Orleans.
It's like crawdads. It's like crawdads.
Exactly like a craw, exactly like a craw. So you get a chance to really get into it and make it more of an experience than anything else. So I'm doing langostinos today, and I'm also going to be doing Brussels sprouts. So Brian, shame on you. You took it off of me, but I'm going to do it. It's going to basically be. I was recently in Dallas, and while I was there, I went to this place called Town Hart, which, by the way, to me, one of the best steakhouses in all Dallas. Phenomenal. And they have this roasted Brussels sprouts that with a little bit of like you know, it was fantastic. A little balsamic vinegar they put on. They put in a little bit of honey, some extra spices, and I said to myself, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try to do my own way, and I'm gonna bring it to the to
Nice.
this group. So
Nice.
we're gonna rock and roll.
All right, Jonathan, you want to do our top 5 real quick?
Yeah, let's get into it. Our resident expert Cole chimed in on the langoustine, so I threw that up on the screen there. So he's in Maine and works for a big food distributor. They don't even distribute langoustines in Maine. So if you wanted them, you couldn't get them in Maine. And I'm sure that's because of the lobster lobby there. But you gotta protect your big business. So here we go, top 5. We'll get Omar on this screen here with us too for the everybody screen. Here we go, top 5. Boom. Brought to
So
you
these
by
were
Wood
our
Butcher Maine.
top. We figured this was the perfect theme for today. Was the top 5 tall objects. So for myself, I had picked Redwoods, Angel Falls, the Space Needle in Seattle, the Golden Gate Bridge, and I had to pick Omar. I mean, that was my top 5 there. McGee also picked Omar. Tony Gomez, another one. G700, J.P. Morgan Chase Tower, and the Louisiana State Capitol, which I had to look that up. I didn't actually realize that was a tall thing. And Carney took Omar again. What are we pandering to our guest or what? The Freedom Tower, my cat. What my cat? What and what is that? My cat. What?
It's called Mount Katahdin. It's the first mountain in the Appalachian
Oh,
region.
Mount Katahdin. I got you. Okay, all right. And then Niagara Falls and palm trees. You like palm trees? That's fair.
I'm coincidentally very scared of heights. So this was a tough thing. So I picked my tall objects mainly from things that started from the ground and went up, and I could observe them from the ground.
That's fair. That's fair. All right. So that's our top 5, sponsored by Wood Butcher, by the way. Which, matter of fact, I'm going to exit for just a second because I just want to cut this prime rib open because I've got snacks for myself while these guys cook. So I'm gonna let Carney, you drive this while I go cut a piece of prime rib.
I like how Fred's like, I'm going to have snacks for the show, and he cooks an entire prime rib as a snack.
Prime rib, yeah, entire.
I can still hear you.
Oh boy, I can mute it. I can mute him if we got to, Brian. So right now I'm working on. If you're in the bottom right-hand corner, we got Omar in the middle section there. In the bottom right-hand corner, I've got my steak on the grill. It's kind of hard to see here, but we'll jump on the grill cam real quick. The camera moved a little bit, so we'll bring it back. But got it right here in the cast iron. We're going to do about 1.5 minutes on each side here, and then we're going to let it rest for about 5-10 minutes. We're actually only going to cook this twice. We're going to do 2 cookings, two high heat sessions, so 1.5 minutes each side. Let it rest, and then we're going to bring it back for about 2 minutes on each side, and then we're going to let it rest for about 10 minutes. In the meantime, off to the side, I've cut some beets up. I've got my food processor here. I'm going to throw my salt, pepper, garlic, the Japanese barbecue sauce, the beets, the shallots, the mustard powder, and lemon juice in a food processor to make the tartare portion of that. And then I'm just going to take a little bit of lime and a little bit of salt and put my avocado in a little mixing bowl and mix that up, and that's going to be the top. So that's going to be a pretty quick little dish there too. So I'm headed off into a good spot. So Omar, question for you.
Talk to me.
You got you're prepping right now. You have in the premium cigar industry, I would say, but except Brian and I, you are the third person other than my own stuff and Brian's that watch when it comes to steak. I've literally watched you live cook steak. Not only do you do a great job doing it, your passion for it's amazing, and that's why I watch it. Like, you love every step of the process. So tell us about your process in cooking steak and how you've perfected it, because I love it.
So I there's something that to me is incredibly personal about steak. I actually do the whole end to end for me in terms of finding out what are some of the flavors that I'm going to be able to pick out of the particular steak that I'm cooking. So for me is I've been working for the last like 10, 15 years, basically looking for what is the tenderness that fits for me. What is the level of char that fits for me? What is the level of salt that fits for me? So and this is a question that I like to take back to you guys as well, because obviously I've been following your stuff and the kind of cooking that you do, and I'm also fascinated by it. But my biggest question is like, do people spend that much time with their steaks as I've definitely seen you guys do and as I do? Because there is something special about, no, leave it longer, leave it an extra 30 seconds, and you'll get something else. Move it around the skillet and see how it goes. So I'd be interested to know if you guys also spend so much time cooking steak every day. I would go in and just like every single day I will cook a steak to see where my hobo, I call it my hobo, my personal spices that I'll tell you guys a little bit about as well, works in each particular experience. So have you guys, like, is it just
I'll
me?
say
Am I
to you,
crazy?
No, I'll save you, Omar.
No.
The biggest thing I ever get is people ask me a lot of the time, because like I do some sous videing, and people are like, oh, why don't you just sous vide? It comes out perfect. And I'm like, so doesn't it comes out perfect when I treat the meat the way it deserves to be treated without sous videing it as well. I can cook it perfect the way that I want it, and I like to spend the
Exactly.
time with it. And the way for me, the best analogy is, do you want to sit in a massage chair, or do you want to go and get a massage from a professional masseuse? That's the way I kind of feel
Exactly.
like it. Like, I'm treating the meat and treating the product with the respect it deserves. And yeah, sous vide's easy sometimes, but there's something in that process of charring it, cooking it. Cole, my friend, and I, we talk about it quite a bit from up in Maine. And there's something primal about sitting there and enjoying it, and there's something really elegant. It's really elegance, primal elegance, the way I look at it. So no, people look at me crazy. Yeah, people just aren't willing to spend that kind of time on it, and I really encourage people to do it, because it's really enjoyable when you do it. I don't know, Brian, I think you feel the same way.
Yeah, I think you can. A great analogy is our cigar business. You got people that geek out about their cigars. They want to know factories, who rolled it, the age of the tobacco, and you got guys that are like, how long has this been dry aged? What cut is it? And they want, and like for me personally, I want to sous vide it. I want to grill it. I want to try every different way to cut it, kind of like what Omar said, to find out what's the best way for me. What do I like the best? What kind of crust do I like? And you got guys in the cigar industry that smoke a cigar just to smoke a cigar, and then you got guys that smoke cigars that want to know everything about it and enjoy it to its finest, each piece of tobacco. And I think steaks are the same way.
I agree 100%. I think one of the biggest struggles personally that I found with I haven't done anything with sous vide. I mean, I've seen it, but it's like opening up a bottle of wine and somebody else drinking it for you. Like, why don't you go through the process of experiencing, like, the moment where you just go in and sear that, and then all of a sudden just making sure that it hits that minute and a half, 2 minutes. For me, it's about 2 minutes obviously on each side, and then immediately putting it inside the oven and see how the process just evolves, and then just putting it aside. I cover it, and then when I cut it, I open it up right in the middle. I just go straight up down the middle after my spending 5 minutes, and then I see it. And it's for me, is the process of saying, you know what? There was no machine. There's nothing telling me at 425 and 500. This is right here. I did the freest
Right.
family environment. So it's pretty special.
So this is a little snack I made, for the show. Like Brian said, little smoked prime rib there. So just a little got a little crust on the edge of it there. So
Look at
to what
that, huh?
Omar's point, on there is that, you know, for me, it just depends on what's going to showcase that particular cut. And we all, you know, find our different ways or different seasonings and things like that. I've been enjoying smoking prime ribs lately. I really like the consistency of it. I like the slow cook of it. I've cooked prime rib 10 million different ways. You know, the same thing with the sous vide. I think I have a sous vide. There's a time and a place for sous vide. There's cuts of meats that work out really well there. My big wrestle with the sous vide, and Brian's going to, you know, have this, you know, on the searing. It comes down to the searing. You know, nothing replaces still being able to get that crust on the outside. And you know, I think when you start dealing with better cuts of meat, you know, everybody thinks you got to use a lot of spices and all that other stuff. You're really just trying to enhance the steak however you can, for whatever fits your personal stuff. So it's usually a lot less salt. Like when I use the salt block, which I've done on the show before, I don't salt the steak. The salt block does not put as much salt into the steak as you think it will, but it puts just the right amount for me. Some people like to, you know, put a little bit more salt on there, but I'll use some other spices, but not a lot. I mean, if I'm especially if I'm smoking or something like that, it doesn't take much to really enhance the flavor to it. So I'm gonna take a bite of this because I can.
Here's something else, guys, that I find fascinating. That when as in the process, and I find obviously different cuts, obviously treated different ways, but particularly like, you know, A5 Wagyu, when I try to cook it, you know, in a similar fashion to what I've done before, it just doesn't work, right? Like the first time that I ever tried to cook a Wagyu piece, I always drizzle a little bit of olive oil. Biggest mistake I've ever done. There was so much fat, obviously, from that Wagyu, that it was impossible to basically, you know, make sure that the steak would come out in the right way. So figured out that there's a different ways, you know, something more like a skillet would be a little bit better, not at the very, very high temperature. So I'd be interested in knowing a little bit about how you guys, if you guys have cooked Wagyu, you know, how you guys have cooked it before, because I've struggled with it quite a bit.
So
I'll tell you, my experience with Wagyu, to me, it cooks a lot quicker than prime or choice or Angus. It definitely cooks faster, and you got to be up on your temps with it, in my experience.
well,
I would agree, because the first time I did Wagyu, it cooked way faster than I thought it would.
So when it comes to Wagyu, you got different grades, obviously. True Japanese Wagyu, A5 is super fatty. You're not trying to heat the muscle up at all. You're really just breaking down the fat a little bit to make it a little, you know, just to really warm it up, to make it a little more fluid and easier to eat, really, and really get the flavor out. You're really just searing. It's only searing. It should be really thin cuts. It should be seared really quickly. If you're eating like a really big piece, first of all, you got plenty of money and you can eat it however you want if you're going to eat a big piece. But it's really just a quick sear on each side and then it's done. You don't really need olive oil. What you really need is like a nice truffle salt. Hit it with a little bit of truffle salt. Sear it for maybe 45 seconds at the most, at the hottest heat you can possibly get. Flip it and you're good to go.
At the most, I agree 100% with that. Because the first time, man, it was a disaster. But then I quickly learned my lesson. I said, okay, now I think I know exactly what to do, and I did exactly that. I saw a chef out of New York do it in that manner. I was like, holy smokes! I know for sure, you know, this guy, if he does it in a little bit faster than everybody else did. But I sort of, you know, calculated the amount of time that he was spending on it. It was not longer than 45 seconds each side.
Mm-hmm.
Done.
This is delicious.
How's that? I need to get another invitation. Not where I you know, cooking some langostinos, but rather when I'm cooking you know, a very fatty piece of steak. You know, it's like taking a crab mallet to Texas. You know what I mean? Like, who the hell would think about something like that? You know what I mean?
Do that.
I know. I quickly learned my lesson after I got some messages and some emails saying, brother, please don't ever do that. Between that and and the amount of heat that I got from McGee and everybody else, holy smokes. It's crazy. But I deserved it.
That's good.
And since on our show we don't like noises of the kitchen, I muted when I use the food processor here. So that's been muted there. So I did just use the food processor. My base for my tartare is done. I just kind of mix up the top. And my steak's going to take one more run around here. And I'm going to be pretty much done. This is a pretty easy setup for me today. A simple dish, but but a lot of good ingredients and a lot of good flavors.
I got to make prime rib snacks for the show more often. That's tasty.
Man.
So, Brian, have you used the salt block before? Is this the first time you've used it?
It was the first time.
Yeah.
Chris does have a really good comment.
I warmed it up gradually, and it hasn't cracked. So far, so good.
Mm-hmm.
Chris
as long as you're slow warming them up, they're really good.
Chris has a really good comment here. We did touch on it a little bit, but he was talking about breaking down. That's why you see you see a lot of A5 in cubes or smaller broken down pieces because of the fat. You also see it in really thin cuts. I would slice it up and you eat it in little pieces. And sometimes you'll even see them eating with little chopsticks, kind of like this, tweezers essentially. But yeah, that's a beef that really needs to be broken down. It's truly a delicacy. You can also dip A5 Wagyu in a little bit of soy sauce, and it really brings out the umami in it. I got into A5 over COVID just because I was running out of unique things, and that was something that was fun for me to do. So I did a lot of A5 towards the middle to end of 2020, and there was a lot of unique flavors. But it's really a delicacy. It's a really different type of product than the beef that we eat here. You know, choice, prime, even the American Wagyu and Angus crossovers and things like that. Still a lot of fat marbling in those higher grades, but nothing like that Japanese A5.
Nothing
it's really
like
a different
it.
dish.
Nothing like it.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, though. I'm going to say that if you've got a good prime cut and you know how to cook it, I don't find the A5 to be leaps and bounds above everything else as much as some of the public perception is. It is good. It is different. If we want to go back to the cigar
It's
analogy,
a different product. It's a different product.
It's like so. If you go back to the cigar analogy, you talk about Cuban cigars, and everybody's like, "Oh, they're the best." Well, if you like that tobacco, they're good. But then also you got to get a good Cuban. If you have a good Cuban, it's great. Is it insurmountably better than other cigars made? No, I don't think it is. Same thing for an A5. I think you can get an A5. It's good. It's a different flavor, but it's not insurmountably better than if you're in the hands of somebody that's prime steak and knows how to cook one. For me.
Yeah, I think especially with the higher end Wagyu, it's kind of like Scotch. You got 12-year, 15-year, 25-year. 25 years is really good, but sometimes, man, the 12-year is where all the flavors at. So if you like that rich, earthy, umami flavor, then the higher
is 25-year worth 10 times the price as the 12. Personally, right. 18 right there, that's a good wheelhouse. So if you look at 12-year being choice, 18-year being prime, and 25-year being Wagyu, that's kind of, to me, that's a good analogy, Brian, as far as what it is. Is it better? Yeah. Is it worth the price every day? Not necessarily. Plus, also with the Wagyu, I like having thick cuts of steak. I like having a 2-3 inch ribeye cut or bone-in ribeye and stuff like that, and you just would not do that with a Wagyu. You can't.
So
it's too rich.
Omar's got something interesting going there. He's just doing some sautéing. We got that featured on the page there. But some of our guests that are watching this might not be familiar with who Omar is. So Omar, you are with you founded a company, Fratello Cigars, correct? You've always had a passion in cigars. You're from the Dominican Republic, is your background. But how did you get to where you are today as being the special guest on Hacking Gourmet?
Well, so first of all, I am beyond excited to be in the show because not only are we going to do something, by the way, I think we should do something like follow through. So I want to get an invitation right now at some point for me to come back and do something really, really interesting in terms of the meat. But long story short, I'm the owner of Fratello Cigars, and I started in the industry roughly about 8 years ago, 7, 8 years ago. And it was basically through a passion project. I love cigars. I love the experience of smoking, right? And I wanted to do a little side hustle. I wanted to get some money on the side. I was working at that time and I wanted to do something where I could do something interesting, right? And so, long story short, I launched right about the exact same time, 2013. It was my first trade show, and man, it's been a hell of a ride. I mean, launched it in 2013. I decided to leave my job at NASA in 2016, towards the later part, and haven't looked back ever since, man. We're now expanded to about 15 countries that are carrying Fratello cigars, including my good buddy Chris Rosenthal, that is pretty tall. I don't think he's 6'8". I'm gonna go on the limb and say he's 6'6", 6'7". But
he's
we'll talk about
very
that
active today in the chat box, so he'll let us know very shortly his height, and I'll let you know.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. But I do remember I have a good story about him as well. Had a great steak right very
Controlled
close
by
to
somebody.
his store. So it was very interesting. So one of the things so it's been full time for me, man, and it's I'm loving every step of the process in the cigar industry.
So Chris is 6'6", and we're still on this Wagyu thing, which is important. There is a very big difference between Wagyu, A5, different grades, especially what we know from here.
Absolutely.
So you look in the United States, Wagyu essentially means Japanese cattle. And originally it was cattle that was born and raised in Japan, and then you had different grades of that, A5 being the highest grade of Kobe beef. And there's other ones, you have olive fed and all these different things. And there's different ways that these cows and things are fed. But Wagyu essentially means Japanese cattle. So the Wagyu we eat now are essentially hybrids. They're not true Japanese cattle. The same thing with tobacco. You can't grow Nicaraguan tobacco in the Dominican Republic. What makes Nicaraguan tobacco Nicaraguan is it's grown in Nicaragua. So the same thing, but you have strains of cattle that came from those. Now they're raised here. And really what we know is Wagyu today is just a really high grade of prime. Is really a high grade of prime rating because in the USDA, there is no higher rating than prime. So now you have Wagyu, American Wagyu, Australian Wagyu. Those are cattle grown in those countries in the spirit of the Japanese cattle, which most likely in those cases share some sort of bloodline with a Japanese cow. But there is a very distinct difference between Wagyu and different gradings. That's why when we had the gentleman from Meat and Bone on, they talked about the beef, the marbling scores they had, the BMS and whatnot. Those were different marbling scores for Wagyu cattle that's grown here in the United States or Australia. And it is really high marbling, but there's a lot more muscle in those cows, where the A5 cattle is a lot more fat. So, Brian, let's check on you real quick. I just don't have as much going on today, so I'm kind of playing like co-meterator here because I'm literally like 99% done, and I'm trying to plate everything here at the end.
I'm resting. You see it's resting. The Brussels sprouts are almost done. I'm about to cut this
That looks
up.
good. That
Hey,
looks really good.
I do have a question for Omar. I've known Omar almost
Since he started. Known him for a while, and the one thing he's always done is he's done everything himself. Traveled the country, sold all his cigars, but I think you just recently expanded, and you now have like a national sales manager and all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, Zev.
So what was the question?
Yeah, I didn't hear the
Is he
question.
muted? And I was going to let him expand on that.
He's playing Angry Birds right now.
Oh, he got muted again. He got muted again. Oh boy, he's muted again. Anyway, you know what, Fred? This is a really good time to go on to something onto our show notes here. What's up next?
Gourmet FACKS. Gourmet FACKS.
Or we could actually take a quick look at the Gourmet Smoke Session for February. So February, we are now announcing officially, first heard here, our Florida Dominicana Gourmet Smoke Session for February. That'll be on February 19th. That's going to be with the Penthouse Cigar Lounge in Hartford, Connecticut. The packages are now available on meatandbone.com. You can see here it's going to be a package that has twin filet mignon. Since we were talking about Wagyu and Angus and different crossovers, this is actually going to be twin filet mignons with an Angus crossbreed. It's going to have a a truffle cheese from Italy, and we're also got a salt and pepper finishing salt. It's actually from our friends at Cooper's. So we have that smoked salt and pepper finishing salt, and it's going to come with a big Caribbean lobster tail. So it's going to be a really exciting menu. We're releasing the La Volcata, LFD's preparing the La Volcata La Valentine, and that will be available through the Penthouse Cigar Lounge, and you can go to meatandbone.com and search hacking to find the package for February 19th. It'll pop right up. So super excited. It's kind of a date night theme. So two fillets are going to be excellent. We're going to do a really nice preparation with that. So you can bring your significant other along and cook with us on February 19th at 7 p.m. It'll be streaming live on Hacking Gourmet on YouTube, Facebook, and also on our partners page, the Flor Dominicana, on Facebook. So that's our gourmet smoke session.
7:15, somewhere in there, you know.
Yeah, whenever it
Am I
starts.
still muted?
Nah, you're not
No,
muted.
you're not
You're
muted.
back, Omar.
You're not
back.
muted.
We're just on to the next part of the show. And then while we're here, we can bring up the Hacking Gourmet store. You can go to the Hacking Gourmet swag store, www.hackinggourmet.com. Got new items on there. I just added a new pullover hoodie. It's a really high quality item. It's made by American Apparel. So that's a nice one. So we've got all those on there. Some of the hats that were out of stock are back in stock, but you can check out our swag store at hackinggourmet.com. And back to Omar.
Guys, I'm so sorry. I don't know what the heck is going on with like the whole muting or unmuting. I haven't touched the thing at all. It's just like I keep on talking and I don't even put my little Bluetooth on. But
Omar, welcome to Hacking Gourmet. That is the norm. I mean, this happens on every show. It doesn't matter how prepared we are. All that stuff always happens.
Crazy. But to answer your question, Brian, super excited to have Zeph on board with our team. As all of you guys know, Zeph, he's been, you're right, I've been doing a lot of this hustle, a lot of this drive by myself, probably for a couple of reasons, guys. I spent 4 years basically still employed and doing the sales on the side for Fratello. So the challenge was massive, right? I mean, here I am working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I'm trying to like sell cigars on a Thursday night while trying to like, go visit people on Friday afternoon and Saturday and Sunday, coming back home on Sunday. So I really had very, very, very little time for where I get a chance to actually spend time with the retailers and time with our consumers. So it took me, I want to say, a little bit of the better part of 5 years just to not only get my name out there and get the brands, going. We had a lot of success early on, but it had to do a lot with that, constant hustle. So now Zev comes in, it's a breath of fresh air because he brings a lot of industry experience from being at Drew Estate and being the VP of Sales at Royal Agio. And so now I can start passing on some of these things and some of these territories for him to hit it on and get a chance to grow the brand. So which is always what we're always thinking about. But I wanted to show you guys a little bit about what this ended up looking like. So this is my langostinos, guys. So the reason I love langostinos is because it has a little bit more of that meatier aspect to basically a shrimp, and it's just softer, sweeter, right? So I am a fanatic for it, and one of the things that I did with this is I sauteed a little bit of onions. I had to put a little jalapeno because I like a little bit of extra kick. And then I use my personal spices, Fratello personal spices, people, right here, being launched very soon. Premiere here at the Hacking Gourmet.
Nice.
So pretty cool stuff.
So I'm on the final cooking here on the flat iron steak. It's going to get about 1.5 to 2 minutes on each side. They said this is a cut of beef that's it's a heavy working muscle. It's the shoulder of the cow. So it takes heat very quickly. It does have fat in it, but it's not marbled throughout, so we're really not breaking it down and reabsorbing. The technique I use of touching it to feel the moisture level of it, this steak retains heat quite quickly. Quite well and quite efficiently, and it also retains a lot of its moisture because there's not as much of it to lose. So when I do cut into this, you're going to see a lot of moisture in it and a lot of juice. It is a really juicy cut. So that's just about done, and then it's going to have its final resting stage before we close the show out here. It'll be the final thing that I do. So that's just about to come off, and it's going to rest here. The Uncle Steve shake It's browned it up real nice. You can see it. A beautiful cut of meat there. So looking really forward to getting into that.
Let's
and then here we are.
let's go to Brian. Brian's got it right there in the camera for us to take a look at.
Beautiful.
There we go. Look at nice presentation too. That was the Carney School of Instagram right there.
Right there. That's right. I better take a picture.
That's right.
So back to the main screen. We do have some fun stuff to get to here, Fred. We've got our gourmet facts. I've got a lot of unique things here tonight. The Would You Rather is going to be an exciting time. But let's get into the gourmet facts here. So here we go, Omar. We're about to educate. So this is brought to you by our friends at Crowned Heads, McGee's Smoked Meats. Hopefully a meet and greet coming your way soon. As soon as we can get back out there and do more in-person events, go and see Crown Heads and see Brian McGee and get a steak from him. But here are the gourmet facts. These are actually very educational this week. Some more than others, but very educational. Here we go. Steak was created by the Saxons and was originally called stelk, which translates to meat on a stick.
Really?
Yep. Stelk. So there you go. There's our first gourmet fact. In 2019, over 27 billion pounds of red meat was consumed in the United States.
Well, most people don't realize that 10 billion of that was actually on this show.
Right.
Here's a cool one. I thought this was pretty interesting. Dr. James Salisbury from the Civil War era, he was a doctor, recommended hamburger steaks be eaten 3 times per day. The Salisbury steak. There you go.
Oh, how do we not have a statue for that guy?
Right.
There's got to be one somewhere. Here's one more. We got 5 gourmet facts this week. The 5th one's the most important, but this is number 4. When preparing a steak, never use a fork to transfer your delectable cut. This will damage the steak and create uneven cooking. So you want to use tongs, you want to use a spatula. You don't want to use anything that's going to damage the outside of the steak. You want to create a nice cream crust, and you don't want to give away for the moisture to escape out by creating little holes. And the one that everybody knows, but is hotly contested, despite popular belief, Carney does indeed prepare better steak than McGee.
Oh, that's fake fact.
And I conveniently positioned this at the bottom of the screen so it could have Brian and I at the top.
And muted Brian.
Take a screenshot. Take a screenshot so we can put that up later. There we go.
Do we have a screenshot of the belt? Do we have a screenshot of the belt? Where's that?
Yeah, hold the belt up, Carney. Oh, wait.
Oh, you don't have a belt. That's right.
And those are our gourmet facts. Thank you to our friends at Crown Heads and Brian McGee's Smoked Meats.
Those are good. You actually did research this week for gourmet facts. This wasn't even a throwaway section.
I was all over it. It was great.
This got classy all of a sudden.
Man. Organized emails.
So I'm putting together my my steak tart. Sorry, my vegetarian tartare here. So this will be an interesting dish. Let me see if I can get the camera on this.
So let me get this straight. Am I the only guy that has ever done langostinos in this show?
Yes, you are. And I'm glad. No, but I'm glad you did. So Omar, this happened to be a steak episode, but don't get me wrong. I mean, we've done all sorts of stuff. We've done seafood and stuff like that. So I'm actually glad you brought it because I used to have them a lot, and obviously had them in the DR a lot. But it is an underrated item because
100%.
That category is crawdads. And they are much sweeter than crawdads, much more delicate, as you pointed out earlier. It is one of those things here that is not that really should be used more often and take off because if you like shrimp or lobster or crawdads or anything like that, it has to be in your cycle of things to prepare. It's a really good, and it's not hard to cook. It's like any seafood. You just got to make sure you don't overcook it, and it's got a lot of flavor to it.
Despite popular, we don't only cook. We don't only cook steak on the show. Tonight was a steak episode, but we often do other things.
I failed you guys, but I promise, listen, we're gonna do another episode where I know exactly what time it is, okay, and I don't have to guess around, and we're gonna make sure that we're gonna do. You see, I assume the blame. I assume the blame, but we're gonna do one where we can break out a beautiful cut of steak. You know, what'll be fun is to see like not only like different cuts, but also like the idea of like you sear for like a minute and a half, but I think that the reason you do the minute and a half, Jonathan, is because you also know your pan, right? I mean, your cast iron skillet, which
Very much.
do you usually do it more at home? What's your preference in terms of like outside, outside grill versus inside, like in terms of a char?
I prefer cast iron for anything that I'm cooking. I do grill outside a lot because I like being outdoors. But during the show during the summer, I actually started doing cast iron outdoors on a little makeshift burner that I created.
Really?
So I prefer cast iron. It's just really consistent heat. I do really love grilling. But when I do grill, I prefer charcoal, and I like very, very high heat. So that's something that I do with that. But yeah, no, I prefer cast iron, and it changes off cut of beef too. Today I did, this took 2 minutes of heat essentially on each side twice. Depending on what I'm cooking, I may give it, more cooking time. I may give it more times on the heat and with more quantity and less temperature. So it all depends on what I'm cooking. And like I said, I messed around with this flat iron a lot lately and found out that it really absorbs a lot of heat well. But I do have my tartare finished up here. So let's take the top off. Boom. That'll be good for a vegetarian. You're going to like that stuff. It's going to be delicious. Oops. But I can bring this up to the screen too so people can take a look. There is the beet tartare.
Nice.
And I'm just going to top with a little bit of parsley just to give it some extra greenery on it. And then I'll do a little bit of a garnish with some of the sauce just to kind of give it
do you clean your cast iron? And I mean clean, and I'm not talking like
not.
like okay,
No,
because there's some people, man, are like being flipping that. It's like, I have some friends over on the weekend, and they were like, your cast iron is looking. It's like, do not touch it. Please don't ever.
Absolutely not.
Don't ever come over close my cast iron. Don't ever do that.
There are two things that I like about cast iron, and one we can kind of get into the science of it. One has to do with, the even distribution is that once you heat up, cast iron by nature of how it is can evenly distribute better than some of the frying pans that are out there because they tend to be thinner and they tend to distribute heat out toward the edges different. Cast iron is much more consistent, particularly on the base level. But then the other thing that often gets overlooked on cast iron is the surface area itself. It's not smooth like having a Teflon pan. And what that does is it creates these tiny, tiny little gaps of air that superheats air that gets the sear very differently. So most people, when they talk about sear, if they have their ideal circumstance, it's going to be cast iron on flame. Because the flame obviously distributes much faster, you can control the heat better, but cast iron itself is the surface of the cast iron is what makes it. And absolutely, you don't clean it. It's the same thing with the salt block, by the way. You get a little bit of a plastic scrubby, and you just get the big pieces off, but the rest of the stuff you just let sit there, and that's how you season it. That's when it gets really, really good.
Here's something interesting, guys, as well. Like for me, I personally enjoy like my I do it at 425 once I'm done with searing the meat on both sides for a couple of minutes. I put it inside 425, get that bad boy out. Depending obviously on the thickness of the meat, I usually do about 4 minutes, for 35 minutes. It just depends. I'm all day long medium rare, like for fresh to medium rare. So I then transfer it to like a cold plate. Don't do like heat it up or anything like that. If I was doing a cold plate, I just cover it. I put a little butter on top and just let it melt. And it is made in heaven. Do you guys usually have you tried? Do you? I've seen and I heard different ways of people leaving the meat out for longer than 5 minutes. Is that you guys' preference as well when it comes to?
Yeah, I do. I've said on the show before, I really think that the two things on steaks, obviously you've got to cook them right, but the two things that I think that often get overlooked is letting the steak rest before you put it on, get it out to room temperature. Don't take that thing right out of the fridge and throw it on because the core of it is so cold, you can't cook evenly through. And the second thing, particularly when we start talking about prime rib, so that prime rib I had on the smoker for about 3 hours. It probably rested, like took it out. So I take it out. So my target's 130. I take it off the smoker at about 123, and then I put a piece of aluminum foil over. It will sit for anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour. In this case tonight, it was about an hour, and I have a temp in there so I can watch it. It goes up beyond the 130 to about 131, and then when it starts dropping back down, it's ready. But the big thing in the resting period that's really, really important, particularly, and it's more important when you get into thicker cuts, but especially if you're doing like a prime rib, is that resting period is when all the juices can go back in towards the core. So I've said it a lot before. It's like if you've taken a prime rib right out of the oven or right out the smoker, or right out, and you cut it, and you've got all those juices run across the cutting board, you cut it too soon because you're letting all that flavor just go out. So the resting period is key to those juices getting back into the meat. And then when you cut it, you're still going to have a little bit of juice, but I know I've nailed it right when I don't have to get out a paper towel or anything like that. The juice just stays on the cutting board and it's not running off. So to me, the before and after, but I think resting is really, really important, particularly as you get into anything thicker cut.
Yeah, definitely room
I agree
temperature,
100%.
resting, big parts of it. And I'll tell you one thing to try
Jonathan,
too.
that's kind of
Omar.
what you do with your on off. You're kind of doing that as you're cooking. You're allowing it to rest. You're allowing the moisture to go back into the meat. Then you put it back on, take it off, put it back on. That's kind of what you're doing in that process.
It's a tempered cooking. It's resting. My beef's been resting this entire time. It's actually kind of ready to get cut into now. It's been 8 minutes. So I'll cut into that in just a minute. My tartare is done. I finished the toast. So we got a nice looking dish here. So that's a beautiful dish. So I'm looking forward to trying that. It really does have a meaty taste to it, which is nice. So before we get into that, let's do the would you rather, so we can finish up these platings here. We got Brian back on the show.
Omar, you get to play. You get to play in this, Omar. So would you rather?
Yay!
So the way, whoever makes the would you rather, the other guys don't know the question, and you just have to pick one. You're forced to pick between one of the two things.
Okay.
And Brian, we got Brian back. All right, here we go. Would you rather? These are good ones, Fred. You're going to be very proud of me. And this is brought to you by the Red Meat Lovers Club. You can go to rmlclub.com. They actually have an in-person event going on this Thursday. I will be there in person myself. It's called Uppercuts in Prime Cuts. It's a boxing match. There's boxing matches, prime beef, Wagyu beef, Kobe beef, side dishes, cigars, the whole deal. 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. in Delray Beach. Uppercuts and prime cuts. Going to be a great time. There's still some tickets available. Jump online to redmeatloversclub.com, rmlclub.com. So here we go. Would you rather, Omar? Here it goes. Would you rather live in a world with no caffeine or no red meat?
No caffeine.
No caffeine.
No caffeine.
100% no caffeine. I don't drink any anyway. There we go. Ding, ding. No idea what happened. Here we go. Live in a world with no caffeine or no red meat. I think everybody was on the same page where they said no caffeine, correct?
Yep, that's what
Correct.
Brian's. Omar hopefully hits reconnect.
All right, so here we go. The next one. And this is quirky. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, everybody got booted.
Yeah, it was bad. So
Carney only
here we go.
12 minutes, so we have to pay attention to that.
And then next one is, here we go. We got Omar back. Omar, you're back. And we got to unmute you now. Perfect question for Omar. Would you rather work for NASA or own your own premium cigar brand? Oh, we got to unmute him. Oh, it would have been a great answer.
That's not even fair. That's not fair.
He's still muted.
You know he's going to say work for NASA. Come on.
There we go.
The hard part for Omar was when he worked for NASA on Monday through Thursday was, convincing NASA to not do any rocket launches Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Right. Definitely work with my premium cigar industry. I mean, how the hell would I met you guys if I would still be working there? So you can't beat that.
So anyway, thank you for everybody sticking around here. We do have a separate live feed, but I'll put that all together for our show online. We'll fix that. I don't know what happened. We had a Fatal error, it says. Here's the next one. Would you rather be too tall or too short to ride on It's a Small World at Walt Disney World?
Too tall.
Too tall. Always go with too tall. There's
Yeah,
a saying
yeah,
in
that's how it
Spanish.
is.
There's a saying in Spanish. It says, caballo grande, ande o no ande. That means big ass horse, even if it walks or even if it doesn't. That's it.
That's right. Big ass horse.
That's right.
All right. So
All
far,
right.
we've all been in agreement. This will be interesting because we've never had a show that everybody's agreed on every answer. So wait.
Yeah, and
Ooh, okay.
the big problem is I've tried to do some sound effects, and that was the issue last time. I hit the applause sound effect, and it kicked us out. So I'm being very careful. But here's the last one. Would you rather always eat well done steak or perfectly cooked vegetables?
Oof, that's a tough one.
Ooh, whoa.
Uh-oh. I'm gonna have to say perfectly cooked vegetables. There's nothing worse than well done steak. I mean, that's just bad.
What do you? I have to agree, man. Like, what do you guys do when you're cooking an amazing steaks and somebody says, "Hey, can you give? I like to take it mine well done." I mean, I put immediately. I don't even look at the person. I just go and get them a piece of chicken. That's it.
Right.
So perfectly cooked veggies for me.
All right, Fred.
If you narrowed it down for me because you said steak. If you'd left other meats in there like hamburger or something, I might have waffled. But I'm gonna have to go perfectly cooked veggies. I mean, I'm a medium rare guy. Rare if it's a perfect cut type thing. I'm gonna have to go veggies though. I could not a well done steak for me. No, not happening.
So offensive.
So I'm going to go with the same thing. I'm going to go with I would rather eat perfectly cooked vegetables only instead of eating well done steak. And the reason I didn't put other red meat in there is I wanted to save us and leave us with actual items we could still eat red meat with. So I didn't completely eliminate red meat. But yeah, so there you go. That's the Would You Rather. That's brought to you our friends at Red Meat Lovers Club.
And by the way, this is historic because we've never had everybody agree, even among the three, let alone having a guest on there. We all agreed on every single one. And now we'll be
let
disconnected.
me do a bonus follow up. What makes you cringe more when a friend asks you to cook his steak medium well done, or ask for steak sauce? Which is the bigger sin?
Well, I'm gonna say well done. I'm gonna say well done. I can forgive steak sauce. It's not but at least I can pretend that it's a spice type thing. It's a flavor type thing. But yeah, well done would be the greater sin for me.
Yeah, I'm going well done. They can put sauces on it. I hate it, but I judge people a lot more if they order it well done. So that's terrible.
I would judge them so hardcore. But look. It's never too late, people. So if we're gonna extend it,
there we go.
The moment we extend it, baby. Okay. When you called me, just so you know, okay, here's a little bit more info. When you called me, I immediately said, "Please give me some incredible USDA Prime ASAP." But traffic in DC sucks, so we ended up going with Langostino. But it's right here if we need to.
Perfect. But you didn't cook the Langostinos well done, so you can come back to the show.
Thank you. But here's something else, guys. Like, Fred, you mentioned the show that I have on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's called Imperfect Pairings. I'm going to do a little plug on that because my team was like, make sure you tell the guys that we have Imperfect Pairings on YouTube. So
absolutely,
do a little subscription, a little like on the channel. But I do, what I do? I do a lot of pairings with different things. So because of the travel that I do, I grab a cigar and I pair it with, whatever I can find that is very unique to the area, right? So we've tried everything from like in Budapest with Palinka, which is a particular drink that's very particular to Budapest, Eduardinho and Ginginha in Spain, in Portugal. And I've been wanting to do a pairing with a steak, okay? As a matter of fact, I tried to do it at what is it? The Golden the Golden Steak place that Dean and
The Golden
Golden
Steer.
Steer. Golden Steer.
The Golden Steer.
Yeah.
So I went in and actually started doing it, but the camera went haywire, knocked off, and I couldn't do it. Have you guys done? Because I tried it, and it just the steak and the salt and the juices. It's so much for the cigars that it's just too much. Have you guys tried that yourselves? Pairing a cigar with a piece of steak by itself.
I do it almost every week, and
Okay.
and the whole concept with the gourmet sessions that we do, and we've got sessions, as we said, we're working on with Crown Heads for this year as well. Something fun where we're going to pair a bunch of different things together. But we build the cigars for our gourmet sessions. I'm picking those cigars based off the dish we're cooking. So it's so we're doing it on a monthly basis, and I think it's something that's great. And in my head, I'm always thinking, what wine, what drink would I pair with this? What food would I pair with this? Steak I'm eating, what's going to hold up for? For me, I picked today my Airbender. It's a medium-bodied cigar. That for me, the steak we're doing today is kind of a medium-bodied steak. It's a flat iron steak. It's got good flavor to it, but it's not crazy tender. It's not a huge marbling of fat. So it's a really good pairing with that. So yeah, I do it all the time, and I think it's awesome, and it's a fun time to pair
And you
cigars with anything.
you feel like it comes out more like the flavors. Because to me, that's what a pairing is all about, right? Like if I'm pairing a cigar with a particular drink or food, like for example, I did it with oyster. I did it with by the way, don't need to do that ever again. It does not work. Okay, but I've done it with oysters. I've done it with some other things like pate. Actually, it works with pate because of the depending on the pate or depending on the caviar, it has a little bit of that nuttiness and some butter that I always believe it works so well with cigars just because it sort of coats your palate. But I've struggled with steaks, guys, because I feel like I'm taking a little bit away from one or the other. But I'm gonna let's do a little challenge here for the next one where I'm able to really pay a little bit closer attention. Maybe we can do it, in a follow up. But steak and cigars and really try to hone it in and what kind of flavors I'm able to pick up that could enhance on one or the other.
Yeah, that'd be a great time.
I think Omar brings up a really good point on that because I've enjoyed a lot of cigars with steaks, but one of the things I think I would have to, if I was to treat it fairly, if you talked about the pairing just as in itself, you have to remove the experience that's going along with it. So I've had a lot of cigars at like Saga in DR. And I mean, I've had, I'll have a Winston Churchill late hour, which is one of my favorite ones to do, to pair with that. But I'm also wrapping up the experience in there. The fact that I'm in a restaurant smoking, eating a tomahawk steak off a salt block and stuff like that. But you have to remove the experience. To Omar's points, go, okay, so let's remove the experience that you're with friends and drinks and having a good time and just get down to the flavors of it. And that's really where the challenge goes in. So you really have to, it's like any pairing. Are you taking a cigar that is pairing complementary in flavors, or are you taking a cigar that is complete antitheses of what you're smoking? Steak's a little bit different because it's in this wheelhouse that's similar regardless of what steak you're doing. And so the cigar it's definitely not going to merge with it. It's not going to be the pairing that way. And it's very difficult unless you go real big to get an antithesis. And then you're exactly right. You're taking away the flavors from one or the other. So I would say that the challenge has to include the fact that you have to take away the experience element of it where you're just enjoying and having a good time and just go straight off flavors. And I see the challenge. It's the same challenge, by the way, I have in talking cigars with any beer. I've never been a guy that can do a craft beer with a cigar and find a pairing in there. It's just I see these reviewers do it, and they're reviewing a cigar and they're having like an IPA or something like that. To have an IPA with a cigar for me, I just can't do it. Maybe I don't have the palate or whatever, but I just can't. I can't pair those two together either.
I'll just add something real quick to that, Fred. And the reason I'm asking is because, again, for me, it's about if I'm trying the cigar. Trying this Fratello Bianco, for example, I'm drinking right now this Hennessy XO. I want to make sure that as I mix both of them in my mouth and I exhale, that whatever I wasn't experiencing before in the cigar, all of a sudden comes right up in my palate. And vice versa, right? Like you're looking to basically enhance one or the other, or in other words, complement them and see how they feel in your palate, right? That's why coffee's so popular, right? When it comes to cigars, is because of that acidity that you might be able to bring in to the alkalinity in a cigar, right? And then mixing them both up together in your palate, the pH sort of balances out, right? where I feel when it comes to a steak, and again, we're all steak, aficionados and love steak here. It's just like it's either one or the other. And that's just been the challenge that I've had. That's why I wanted to ask you guys to see if that was your experience on this. Brian, for example.
I think it's a fair question. It's a fair question. Brian, what do you say about that?
I didn't hear the question. Sorry, I had my phone fell. It broke.
Well, the challenge of pairing, truly pairing a cigar with a steak that they don't take away from each other. We've all had great cigars. The cigar is great by itself. We've all had steaks that are great by itself. But really, at the end of the day, and I'd agree with Omar, there is a challenge of putting them both together that they really help. It doesn't mean they don't go together, but do they help each other in the process? Do you have that pairing?
Yeah, I find it difficult as well because, at least for me, either the steak is going to overpower the cigar once you're done, or the cigar is going to overpower your palate when you have the steak. And like you said, with coffee or with I know a lot of people that love port with cigars. Man, it destroys my palate when I drink port. I can't even taste a cigar because it's so sweet to me. So I can't drink wine or port with a cigar because it ruins my palate. And maybe I'm one of the weird ones too, because I hear a lot of people that say their fourth cigar of the day is always their best. Man, it's usually my third or fourth because my palate's got to wake up. So depending on what time of day it is, whether it's coffee in the morning with a cigar or, a adult beverage at night, it is a difficult thing to wrangle, and especially with food because, look, even with you talk to any chef, you cook the perfect steak, you cook the perfect sauce, but if it's the wrong sauce for the wrong steak, man, it's just not going to work.
Very interesting. We found something that we don't all agree with.
I'll say one thing to Brian on the port. I totally agree with you on ruby ports, but you can find tawny ports that are not as sweet that I find to have the pairing. And then the other thing you talked about, third cigar or whatever during the day. There was some point when I was blending cigars, because I always used to do that, which seemed to make sense to me, and it does to a lot of people when they start smoking, is the milder cigar and then work your way into stronger cigars. I actually started doing the opposite. I started with a strong cigar and then backed off. And for some reason, I found that for me, my palate opened up with the strong cigar. And then when the palate was open, and if I was going on to another cigar, like if you saw me at events, I would start out stronger, and then I would actually work into the medium ones later and enjoy those better versus going the other way. If you wake up that palate.
That makes sense. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, no, I find everything, all of these different, the different points of view so fascinating because I've actually worked on an IPA that is not overly citrus and it works with a particular cigar. Now, granted, there are challenges on it. I wouldn't call it a great pairing, but I would call it something interesting to see with a particular cigar that you may try that could potentially challenge it. So I do think that there is some value. But to me, nothing like an experience like a big fat piece of steak with a great cab or a Zinfandel, and then having a cigar afterwards. To me, that is just the grand trilogy right there.
So this show today really kicked our ass. I feel like we've been to battle. I mean, Brian lost a smoker tonight. His phone's now broken. He's sitting in his office dejected. The show copped out.
Omar got late, and that's a stick later.
Yeah, Omar was late. I mean, this was the quintessential Hacking Gourmet episode, and as I said, there's never been an episode we've been more prepared for. So
yeah, and I'm now in the dark.
Prepare.
I'm now in the dark because we never go this late, so I didn't bring out any lights. Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, I think we should go back to not preparing.
Yeah,
I think so.
Fred, don't ever read the show notes again.
I know. Yeah, I did say that at the beginning of the show. It's the first time I'm like, okay, I've got them. I printed them out, and look what happened. See, there we go. But there was a lot of good stuff. Omar, thank you for being here. I mean, there was a lot of good stuff. I mean, you raised up a lot of good questions. It was really nice to talk about the pairings. I know you're really into the pairings, and tell people where to find your show.
So YouTube, just go into Imperfect Pairings. We've had some great episodes. We've had Carmelone recently. I did an episode in Texas, and we're gonna have some really cool episodes coming up. So go check us out on YouTube, Imperfect Pairings. And thank you so much for the invite. And I hope you invite me again, because this is what we're gonna do the next time, baby. Some prime, baby. New York strip.
Perfect.
Well, that's all we got. Thank you, Omar. Great show. Thank you,
Thanks,
Fred,
everybody.
for the guitar. Brian, good luck putting your life back together tomorrow.
Yeah,
We'll
right.
see you all. We'll see you all in our next episode in February 8th.
All right, guys.